Masechta Sanhedrin, Anaya Masechta, the Beis Amid Aleph. Okay, it's a new Masechta. Dinei Mamanis. We're going to talk about Dinei Mamanis. In front of how many, a bezin of how many do you need? Bishloisha. You need in front of a bezin of 3 dayanim. Zeles, Bachavoles. Zeles says Pashat Reben, robberies. And somebody robs you, and you're coming to say that it's Gazlan.
The Zelis is more than Ganovim. Zelis is Gazlan.
A Gazlan is brazen. Even the Shemer could be considered a Gazlan. It says, I don't have it. You never gave it to me. Or I gave it back to you.
A Gazlan is not afraid.
A Gazlan is afraid. A big sin.
A Ganav is he
does a bit bechashoy. Yeah, that's an other thing. But a Gazlan comes with a big. Yeah. But here he's not talking about that Gazlan. A Gazlan, he says over here, Zelis is Lamashal. He grabs something without reshus from his owner, or he says, he brings you like somebody who denies. So you gave somebody to hold up a cotton for you, he denies it. That's Gzelis.
Something you said openly. He's a Gazlan.
Openly, yeah, but here he's giving you the examples of somebody who's kaifa b'pikadon. That's, he denies right in your face. Chavolis is a pashat, yechevel a person. So somebody who's chevel hurts of his friend, he's chayv to pay 5 types of tashlumim. Nezek tzari pishav subeishes. Where is that done? If they shleisha in front of a bezin of 3. Zog the Mishnah vayta nezek. By a nezek in the case of a adam or a behema, which is a muid. A behema after the 3rd time it gored and it was one. It was one, and then the 4th time it did a damage. Then it has to pay nezek shalim. Or the chatzi nezek, if it's not, it's still the first 3 times. It only pays half the nezek in front, half the nezek for the damage. After the 4th time, it pays full. Tashlum yekayfel, then a ganef who steals a chayfetz, and the ganef who steals a chayfetz, he has to pay for the chayfetz that he stole, and then if the kayfel kicks in, if he was caught in Bezdin guilty, right? But with the testimony of 2 Eidim, meaning he denied it, and then 2 Eidim testified, no, then he has to pay kayfel, he has to pay double. Okay? He has to pay the nigna, Pishnayim.
Not guilty.
Yeah, but he denied everything, and then Eidim came and testified, so he has to pay double. The Tashlumim Dalad V'Hei. Dalad V'Hei is that if he sold it, the thing that he stole, he sold it, or he shechted it. So if it's a shepsela, if it's a sheep, he already went through the bezoyan of having to carry it. So therefore it's only 4 times as much. But if it's a shayr, which he didn't go through the bezoyan is then the b'chamisha he pays 5 times as much. In front of how many? In front of how much dayanim? In front of 3 dayanim. Like the Mishnah, somebody who rapes a young child, amafato, or seduces a woman, doesn't have to be young. A psula, it means a girl that was never married, or somebody seduces her. Or somebody who says between the Eidos and the Nesuin, she lived with somebody, so she has. So this man has to pay her father a knas of meya shekel. And not only that, he has to stay with her. He cannot, at Meitzi Shemer argument, he has to stay with her. He has to stay married to her.
How could she marry him?
Okay, but if she can't find anybody, he's stuck. Bishleisha. That's done in front of 3, a bezin of 3. Divrei Rameh, those are the words of Rameh. Chacham argue, Meitzi Shemer, be'esem u'shleishim b'nei sheish by din nefashes. The Chacham say no, it has to be in front of 23. Because here you're dealing with din in the fashes. Why? Because if it's nizbara at the end, I'll pay them that the isha was mizana between the edison and the suyin, then her punishment is skila. In such a case, when you're dealing with din in the fashes, it can only be done din in the fashes in front of a bezdin of 23. If a person did a veda that yechayu malkis 39 malkis, so that's bishleisha. That's in front of 3. A bezdin of 3. Mishum Rabbi Yishmael Amru. In Rabbi Yishmael says, he argues, he says, bebezdin of shloisha ve'esim. only in front of a bezin of 23. And the Gemara later on Yud Amid Aleph will explain the reasoning behind the machlekes of the Chachamim and Rabbi Yishmael, why Rabbi Yishmael says 23 and the Chacham say 3. Iba HaChodesh, sometimes you have 29 days in the month, and sometimes you add a day. So this additional day that you add to make it 30 days is Bishloisha in front of 3 Dayanim. Ibur Hashana, that's you want to add another Sheni, 13 months out of the year. Bishloisha, it's done in front of a bezin of 3. Those are the words I made. Bishloisha maschilin. They start off with 3 to be ma'abed chodesh. B'chamisha noisen, and with 5 they go back and forth to discuss. And when it comes at the end of the discussion, the psak din is done shiva with 7 dayanim to make it a ibashana, to make other sheni. The Gemara will explain. Here he brings down in 15. Gemara Lakamon also Yudam the Beis will bring a Mevi Baraisa that explains this shita. That's what Rashi says. If they nevertheless paskin Ibu Shana extra month other sheni of that year Mu'beres, it's even though it was a bezin of 3, the year is a Shana Mu'beres, even though it was done only in front of a bezin of 3. Smichas Kenim. What does it mean, smichas kenim? That if a bezdin, a Sanhedrin paskin, par helam tzibur, it's called. What does it mean, par helam tzibur? That the Sanhedrin, when they made a mistake in a psak din, and they were mata, one of the havidus upon which you chayiv kares, which you chayiv kares b'mezid, and most of the Bnei Yisrael did b'shegeg based on what they said. So what do the Sanhedrin have to do? So they have to bring it's called a par helam tzibur, and they lean their hands heavily onto the animal, but not everybody together of the Sanhedrin. What's if you found a mace between 2 cities? So you see whichever city is closest. So you take a calf, and you knock off the head of the calf, and you bring him into a valley between the cities. I'm sorry, in the valley. Bishleish, that's done in front of 3 dayanim. Rabbi Shimon, those are the words of Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda says, Bachamish, it's done with 5 dayanim. Chalitza is that if a person died without having children, and he has a brother, and the brother doesn't want to marry the wife, so there's chalitza. Me'unin means if the father of this little girl died, and the only one that's left is the mother and the brother, so the mother and brother could marry her off, but if she decides she doesn't want to stay in the marriage, she doesn't need a get. As a katana, she could say, Miyun, I don't want. In front of how many people does she do it? If Neishleisha, in front of 3 dayanim. Neterevoi. There's a din of Orla. The first 3 years of a new tree, plantation of tree, in Dalar Havana. The 4th year, the payers you have to bring up to Yerushalayim, Neterevoi. So Maisa Sheni, and Maisa Sheni.
So what do you need? You need 8.
1 second. You want to, and now the problem is you want to redeem it. And the same thing with Maisa Sheni. Shein done what you're doing. We don't know what the real evaluation is because the paytas became rotten. You're going Sheikiva paytas, it says. So right now they don't know the exact amount. They need to evaluate it. It can only be done bishleisha in front of a bezin of 3. And so too hegdeshes. Somebody who wants to redeem things that he was magdish for the Beis Hamikdash. He wants to redeem it, and he wants to exchange it for money. Bishleisha has to be in front of 3 dayanim. Ha'arochin, ha'metaltalin. Ha'arochin is a stronger way of making something hegdish. So somebody was marich. If arochin is really a fixed price, that he's giving something that has a fixed price that you give for hegdish, metaltalin, movable items, says the Gemara. Bishleisha. It's done in front of 3 Eidim. Rabbi Yehuda 3 Dayanim. Rabbi Yehuda says, Echad Mahen. One of them has to be a kohen. Shenema, like it says in the pasuk, Be'ekcha kohen kenyiyah. Kakois, and somebody who wants to be paid the kakois that he gave away to Hekdesh. So it says, Tisha 9 regular people were kohen, and the last person has to be a kohen.
What do you mean he wants to be paid?
He wants to redeem. He wants back his karka. He wants to take back the karka.
You could get it back?
He could get it back. He redeems it, but he cannot do it himself, the evaluation.
has to be done in front of 10 people, and the 9 regular people, and one of them is a kohen. The Adam kayetz bahem, and a person who comes to be paid a miyad hegdish, meaning somebody who was he was ma'idich himself. He made himself. He was magdish himself. So if he was magdish himself, and now he wants to redeem himself from being being hegdish, it has to be done in front of 10 people, and amongst them has to be one of them is a kohen. And the Gemara is going to ask later on, l'chera she'ein adam yachal is kodesh. How could a person be kodesh? You're saying he's kodesh. He made himself hagdish. How's his shaykh? So the Gemara will ask that later on. Din in the fashes. Din in the fashes is somebody who's able to aveda of one, on which one is chayiv misas bezdin. Then it's done be'esim u'shleisha. Then it has to be done in a bezdin of 23. Ha'roiveya be'hanirva, a shayr that was that lived with a woman, or a behema, female behema lived with a ish. In both of the cases, the behema is chayiv skila, so that the person also gets killed. Yeah, be'esem u'shleisha. It's done in front of a bezdin of 23. Shanema, like it says in the pasuk, v'harakta esa isha v'esa behema. The Torah was makish the behema to the isha to tell us, just like the isha, she gets punished for this aveda in front of a bezdin of 23. So too the behema, to give this behema skila, is only done in the front of a bezdin of 23.
Man and a woman get skilled.
They lived with the animal.
Rashi doesn't say that.
It's
Rashi says only the behema gets.
No, it says Rashi kisha atedas behema leisha lamdenu shekishem shaish nedenis al aveda zu bezdin shalasim shleisha kishar dinei nefashis afa behema nedenis mifnei bezdin shalasim shleisha. And so too it says by behema that was sodomized by a person. It says v'isha sheyitein shchaftei bebehema moisyumas v'esa behema tarego, and the animal you should kill. Here also the Torah compares the behema to the man to tell us that the behema that lived with a man, just like the man gets killed in front of a bezdin shul 23, so too the behema gets killed that way. Okay, Zakti Mana Shayar Niskil is be'esem u'shleisha. Shayar Niskil that killed a person, right? One second. So he says over here, Shayar Niskil that killed a person is be'esem u'shleisha. A shayar that's chayiv skila is in front of a bezdin of 23.
Why do you need so many dayanim in this case?
Because we compare it to Adam. Shanema, like it says in the pasuk, Hashoy Yisakal v'gam be'olav you must. Even though the owners do not get killed, so what's v'gam be'olav teaching?
So many dayanim to talk about one shoyer.
We have to yes. Hashoy Yisakal v'gam be'olav, since it says v'gam be'olav you must. We know the owners are not getting killed. The Torah is comparing the shoyer to the bailam. Kimmi says be'olam kach misa shoyer. Just like if the bailam would have been chayiv misa for this negicha, right? They would have been judged in front of a bezdin of 23. So too, this behema is judged in front of 23. Hazayiv, a wolf, a lion, a dave, a bear, a nami, a leopard, a badalis, a polecat, a weasel, a polecat, a nachash, and a snake. Misasan, be'esem u'shleisha. Death is in front of a bezdin of 23. Whatever comes first, even before the bezdin, if you kill the lion, you're fine. You're zeicha. But the Gemara will explain what does it mean, zacha. Rabbi Akiva misasan be'esem u'shleisha. But Rabbi Akiva says the misa is done in front of a bezdin of 23. You cannot judge a whole tribe. Yes. Well, you can't judge a Navi that lied in the name of Hashem, and not a Kohen Gadol who was over on Aveda that it's Chayiv Mises Bezdin, and the Gemara will say the case, LLP Bezdin Shal Shivim Echad, only through a Bezdin of 71 Dayonim. The Ein Moitziin LeMelchames HaReshus, you cannot go out, Am Yisrael cannot go out to a Mechames Reshus, it's not a Mechames Mitzvah. Mechames Mitzvah means, like Amalek, to save the Bnei Yisrael from the enemies, so that's called Mechames Mitzvah. But any other mitzvah is called mechaves reshus. That you need only, that could only be done on the psak of a Sanhedrin of 71 dayanim. Ein moisifin alei ir. You cannot add and be marchiv the boundaries of Yerushalayim, v'loy al hazoris, and the courtyards of the Beis Hamikdash. You cannot extend el al pi bezin shel shivim ve'echad, only through a bezin of 71 dayanim. Ein oisen Sanhedriyos lashvat el al pi bezin shel shivim ve'echad. You cannot make these small Sanhedrin for Shvatim only through the a Sanhedrin of 71 dayanim. Ve'ein oisen ir nedachas. Ir nedachas is that most of the city served Avodah Zarah, and the halacha is by ir nedachas we kill everyone with a sayif, by sword, and all the famegan and all the spoils is burnt. That's what we do. You can't have no. El al pi bezdin, such a psak of ir nedachas is only on a bezdin of 71. We cannot make a ir nedachas by the border, which is between the Yidden and the Goyim. And the Gemara will explain, you don't proclaim a city, Ir Nedachas, by a border city that's between the Goyim and the Yidden. It has to be more inland. It cannot be by the border. V'loy shalish, and not on 3 cities. You can't proclaim 3 cities at a time. And these 3 cities are Ir Nedachas. You cannot do it. One, or you can do 1 or 2. Those 1 or 2, you can make Orim HaNedachas. Sanhedrin Gedolah Haisa Shal Shivim Ve'echad. The big Sanhedrin was 71. Ktana Shal Esrim Shleisha. The small ones were 23. Menayim Gedolah Shivim Shal Ve'echad. How do we know the great Dayanim Sanhedrin was 71? Shenema, like it says in the pasuk, Asveli Shivim Ish Mizikni Yisrael. Gather to me the 70 elders from the Yidden. Ubeneisim Lakach Moshe Al Gabeim. In addition, Moshe with them, which is 71 Dayanim. Rabbi Yehuda Ima. Shivim. Rabbi Yehuda says only 70 because Moshe Rabbeinu did not sit with them bedin. How do we know that a small one is 23? Shnama, like it says in the pasuk. What does that mean? Eida sheifetes. You had an Eida of Dalyonim that was mechayiv the person. The Eida matzeles. That's where Hitzilu Eida, and the Eidim were mezakeh. They said no, he doesn't deserve misa. And he can't ask him. You have 20 because Aida is 10. In fact, how do we know Aida is 10 people? Never, like it says in the pasuk. But negate to the Menagim that Moshe Rabbeinu sent to spy over Eretz Yisrael. He said, "Ad Moshe Aida hara." I still when? How will this Aida, evil Aida, continue? Yatsi Yeshuva Kalev. Yeshuva Kalev were not part of that saying because they weren't bad; they were good. So if you minus from the 12 too, you have 10. So you know Aida means 10. Says how do you know you have to add to the Sanhedrin Ketana another 3? It says it says in the pasuk you shouldn't, when it comes to doing evil to a person, you shouldn't go after the Reiv. So I know you follow the Reiv when it comes to doing good. In fact, you want to if so, why does it say if you say you don't follow them for the bad, but for the good, obviously you do. It says the extra words are coming to tell you. You can't compare the rave for the good to the rave of the bad. When it comes to be mezakeh somebody, you need even a rave of one person. But when it comes to be mechayiv a person, you need a rave of 2. Ve'im bezdin shakel, and a bezdin 22 should be good. So he says a bezdin you won't be able to do hatayas l'teva without having one extra. So and you need a rave. So it'll be again. So if you'll have 22, you need an odd number, right? You don't put a bezdin that you could divide equally. So if you're going to divide the dayanim between them, half will be mechayiv, half will be mezakeh. So you'll have, you won't come to a psak. So you need, for the good, you need 1, but for the bad, you need 2. So you need 22, a minimum. So since for the bad you need a raiv of 2, so you need 22. But the problem with 22, if you could divide it equally, you'll never have a raiv. So therefore you add another one and you make it 23, so they can have at least one extra, that it should be an odd number, that there'll be a reiv. Of course, for Lateva. But come here. How many people have to be in the city of Teira Sanhedrin that it should be reiv for a Sanhedrin of 23 dayanim? Says the Mishnah Meiva has some 220, 120. And the Gemara will explain what's the marker for that. 230 Keneged Sori Asaris, corresponding the 23 dayanim. Every dayan is a leader of a Eda. Every dayan is 10. You have 23 times 10 is 230. That's the marker. The Gemara will say that later. In fact, why'd you have to give me an example of Gzelis, of stealing and Chavalis and being Chavere with the deals with money? Isn't that included in Dinim Amanis? Rabbi Avo Mahen Kitani says, Rabbi Avo said, the Tana of the Mishnah, what is he coming to tell us? Mahen Dinim Amanis, meaning he would want to say which cases of Dinim Amanis, which category of Dinim Amanis is three, a bezdin of 3 dayanim fine, good enough? Gzelis v'chavalis. Only by a case of gzelis v'chavalis. Avo heidois v'chavalis. But where somebody was made that he owes money, and he was made in front of Adam. So, or halvais, that there were 2 Adam that testified that the labor borrowed from the Malva. Loi, I'll say over there, you don't need 3 dayanim. Says the Gemara Utzicha, and needed both words, dinim mamanes, and also the example of Gzelis v'chavalis. The Tana dinim mamanes. If we would only learn the words dinim mamanes, I would have thought that even if it's Haidais and Halvais, they're included in the Dinei Mamanis. If it would have said Dinei Mamanis, because it's Haidais v'Halvais is Dinei Mamanis. Tanik Gzelis v'Chavalis. That's why you learn Dafki Gzelis v'Chavalis, not Haidais v'Halvais. He Tanik Gzelis v'Chavalis. If I would have only learned Gzelis v'Chavalis, v'Loi Kadani Dinei Mamanis, Habaminu, who I didn't have Haidais v'Halvais, I would have said again. The same thing applies by Haidais v'Halvais. Why did I learn the case Dafke Gzelis v'Chavalis? Mishum the Ika Shleish Ksivi, the Ika marker of that you need 3 dayanim is by Gzelis v'Chavalis Ksivis. It's written by Gzelis v'Chavalis. Where do we see? Gzelis, it says in the Ksiv, it says in the Pasi, by Hashem Chinam, that Tainas, that the Pekodim was stolen from him. And he has to come swear that he didn't steal it. So it says V'nikra balabais el Elokim. It says one time Elokim, and then he says Im lo yishalach yadei, that he didn't use it. So you have again a pasuk Elokim, 2 more times Elokim.
Elokim is best, right?
It says, what does it say in the pasuk? Asher yoimeku zeh eid Elokim. In after V'nikra balabais el Elokim, that's 1. Then it says Asher Yoimek Yuzeh Eid Elikim, that's 2. Asher Yashin Elikim is 3. Elikim corresponds to Dayan, means Dayanim. So that's how we know 3 Dayanim. It says it by Xelis, these 3 times the word Elikim, where it talks about Shlichus Yad, that somebody used the Pikadin. But also Chavolis, it's written that you need 3 Dayanim because it's a Svara. Mali Chaval Begufi, Mali Chaval Mamayne. What's the difference? If he was chayvel a person in his guf, or he was chayvel if he was chayvel in his mummy, it has the same thing. That's why he learned Gzelis v'Chavalis, because that's the Ike place where we learn out that you need 3 dayanim, because by Gzelis it says 3 times Elikim, each Elikim corresponds to another dayan, so you have 3 times 3 dayanim, and I would say Gzelis has the same thing as Chavalis. So that's why he says that it means Dafke Gzelis v'Chavalis. But Haidais v'Halvais are not included in the Gzelis v'Chavalis. That's what the word Dinim Mamanis is coming to tell us, to separate. It's a separate category of Haidais v'Halvais, that it's not with 3. What do you mean Haidais v'Halvais is different? You're going to say that you don't need 3 dayanim. How can you say that? Rabbi Avo had said, Shnayim shadonu dinim mamanis, 2 people that were done in dinim mamanis, l'divi hakal ein dinayim din. You need 3 dayanim. 2 dayanim is not good. Ella says, you want to know. The pshat is the loy be'inon mumchim. By Gzelis v'Chavalos, you need mumchim. Dayanim mumchim to paskin when it comes to gzedas v'chavolis. But when it comes to Haidas v'Havais, you don't need that they should be ish mipi ish ad Moshe Rabbeinu. To be as simple people. In fact, you want my kasava. What did the Tana Aval Mishnah hold that requires 3 dayanim by Haidas v'Havais? He says you don't need dayanim smuchim. What was he thinking? Ikasava edu pashiyas kasav kan. If you're going to say that he holds that the pashiyas, it says Hashayoymaki who said that if it will be made of the mixas, then he's chai b'shvua. So is it only by Hava? It's written by Shomrim, but it doesn't belong there. It's just they mix the pashas together. Or Hashayemek Huzeh could also be by Shema. He'll only be chai b'shvua if he's made of the mixas. Says the Gemara, if we hold Idu Pashis Kasav Khan and really Hashayemek Huzeh, which is written by Shomrim, is really only applicable to Havais. So L'boyinami Mumchim. Then I'll say you need mumchim even by Havais because it's mixed together with Shomrim, and by Shomrim it says 3 times the word Elikim, which teaches us you need mumchim. Because Hava ain't Erev Pashis Kasakan. And if you can say it's not mixed, Im Ashayim Kiuzeb is applicable to Shomrim itself. So Shleisha Lamali. So if so, from where do we know by Haidas Havais you need B'chlal 3 dayanim? The din of Shleish Dayanim was said by Shaiman. And you want to lay them Kasava Erev Pashis Kasakam. And I'm saying Erev Pashis, it is a mixture. Ashayim Kuzeh really belongs to our voice. Ubedin Hudelabayi Nami Mumchim. Ubedin, we should need Mumchim in by Aidos Vahavois. I like being a Mumchim. This that we don't need Mumchim, Mishum Rabbi Chanina, is because Rabbi Chanina, Dam Rabbi Chanina, Dvar Teira, Min HaTeira, Echadin and the Mamanis, Echadin and the Pashis. Bedrisha uvechakira is that you need to be deirish and chaykesh, and like it says in the pasuk, mishpat echad yilachem. Side for din in mamanis, side for din in the fashes. You need to be chaykesh and deirish. Umatam amru din mamanis lebi in dishvakira. So why by din mamanis did they say that you don't need by Haidas v'Havais you don't need dishvakira? Kadesh loy sinoil. Because the people won't want to lend money. Because the moment you had Adam testifying on the Hava, you've catch him in one little mistake. He doesn't owe you money. Goodbye. That's why we don't do the dishes machikidas, because if 2 Adam would testify he owes the money, we'll collect the money and the mal will get back his money. In fact, now that you're taking layman's, so if they made a mistake and they say the guy does no money, lo yishalmu, should we say that these Eidim Pashta Dayanim should not have to pay? Maybe they shouldn't have to pay, just like Dayanim Mumchim. No, they'll have to pay because they have to be careful. If they're going to be, if we're not going to consent these layman Dayanim who are going to make a mistake, then people will lose money, and they won't want to lend money. That's why there's no immunity for the layman Dayanim.